I'm here at the overseas call centre of a large insurance company. With me is customer service team leader Mr. Volty. Mr. Volty, how easy is it to provide great insurance service to your customers?
Well, we're on another continent. You can never get through. We've no idea who you are, and we're only allowed to work from a script with the information on the screen in front of us. Frankly, you'd be better with High House.
High House Insurance, your local experts. High House Insurance don't pay to be on comparison websites, so your premiums are better value. For a free, no-obligation quote, call Celsey 606 552. High House, local, reliable insurance. High Street, Celsey.
Hello and welcome to this week's Manhood Internet Radio podcast. Well, that time of year is upon us once again, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a wonderful, happy, healthy New Year. Now, if you've got nothing to do, then we're going to go across to Alison now, and she's going to tell you some of the things that are going on in the area for the coming week or so. Alison.
Hello there, and welcome once again to our weekly look at what's going on in and around Celsey. Of course, it's Christmas approaching, so some of the regular things have now finished, but we'll have a run through them and then we'll go across to the Witterings and see what will be happening there. So in Celsey, first of all, on Wednesday the 21st of December, it'll be time for the Crafty Natter Club. They meet at the Methodist Church Hall between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. And then in the evening, it's the Celsey Community Choir, also at the Methodist Hall on the High Street, between 7 and 8:30 in the evening. On Thursday the 22nd of December, as usual, the Mobile Play Soft session will be taking place for the under-5s at the Celsey Centre. That's between 10 and 11:30. If you're interested in having a look at that, you will need to phone Sue or Tom. They're on 604 642. Later, there's the weekly whist drive at the Celsey Club at 7:30 in the evening, and also adult kickboxing. That takes place at the Celsey Centre at 8 o'clock in the evening. On Friday the 23rd of December, in the afternoon, mindful music making will take place. That happens at the shop, the coffee shop, on Celsey High Street between 2 and 3:30 in the afternoon. If you're interested in that one, then have a word with Anna. Her number is 07912 609 437. That's 07912 609 437. Also on Friday, Darby and Joan will be meeting between 2 and 4 at St Peter's Church Hall. Saturday the 24th of December, of course that's Christmas Eve, so very important day for all the little ones, or an important evening I should say. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's a service of the crib, which is a blessing and nativity service. That will happen at St Peter's at 4. Also at the Methodist Church at 6, you can come dressed up as an angel, a king or a shepherd for the story of the birth. All will be very, very welcome at that service. So that's Christmas Eve. Try to get to bed early if you can, because you know who should be coming. Saturday the 25th of December, all the churches will be having their services. And there's a Celsey Community Christmas Day lunch at the Celsey Town Hall at 1 o'clock. So that's Christmas Day. Nothing much in the town on Boxing Day. I think we're all having a sleep. But on Tuesday the 27th of December, as usual, it's back to the mobile soft play session. That's for the under-5s. Again at the Celsey Centre between 10 and 11:30 in the morning. Also on the 27th, we've got the pantomime Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That's being held at Celsey Town Hall at 6 o'clock in the evening. Adults £6, children and concessions £5. Now you can book at High House Insurance on the High Street or online at www.ticketsource.co.uk. So that's the pantomime Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. If you don't want to do pantomime, how about kids kickboxing? That takes place at the Celsey Centre. It's for 4 to 6-year-olds at 4:30 in the afternoon. The over 6s meet at 5. That's it for Celsey. Let's move across now and have a look at the Witterings. On Wednesday the 21st of December, it's motorcycle training. You do have to book for that one. That's held at Bracklesham Barn between 9 and 11. There's also the drop-in and play table tennis session for adults, again at the barn between 10 and 12. A little bit later on, how about belly dancing with Step Inside between 1 and 2? The barn is free then from 2 until 6:30, followed by Zumba with Louise between 6:30 and 7:30 in the evening. On Thursday, which is the 22nd, it's time for Busy Bugs Toddler Gym at the barn between 9:15 and 12:15. Short mat bowls will take place at West Wittering Memorial Hall between 10 and 12, 2 and 4. Now, if you're interested in that, you need to speak to Chris. He or she is on 07788 111325. I'll just repeat that number, 07788 111325, and that's Chris. There's also Pilates going on at East Wittering Village Hall. This is for a mixed ability group between 6 and 7 in the evening. There is private ballroom and Latin dancing going on at East Wittering Village Hall. If you're interested in that, you do need to book an appointment. You can do that at www.strictlydancinguk.co.uk. That will meet at 7 in the evening. On Friday the 23rd, short mat bowls again, Bracklesham Barn between 2 and 4. There's also line dancing at East Wittering Village Hall between 2 and 5. On Saturday the 24th of December, nothing much going on, but they would like to remind you that Father Christmas will be coming tonight, so you need to get to bed early. Nothing much on Sunday or Monday, which is Christmas Day and Boxing Day. But on Tuesday the 27th of December, it's the Toddlers Learning Group at Bracklesham Barn between 9:30 and 12 noon. There's also yoga with Elaine at the barn between 10 and 11, and the badminton club in the evening at Bracklesham Barn 7:30 until 9:30. So that's about it. Let's have a look now at the tides and the weather for the forthcoming week. First of all, the tides. Wednesday the 21st, low tide will be at 10 to 11 in the morning and high tide at 5 in the afternoon. Now, of course, that will change through the week, so anyone planning a Christmas Day or Boxing Day walk along the seafront, you do need to be mindful of that. By the time we get to Tuesday the 27th, high tide will be at 10 in the morning and low tide at 10 to 4 in the afternoon. Let's have a look now at the weather for the forthcoming week. On Wednesday the 21st of December, we can expect a high of 8 degrees Celsius, light cloud, a 15-mile-an-hour wind, which will be south-southwesterly. Thursday the 22nd, 9 degrees centigrade high, with light rain showers. That's our only rainy day. 20-mile-an-hour wind, which will be westerly. On Friday, again a high of 8 degrees, light cloud, 16 miles an hour southwesterly. Christmas Eve, 8 degrees high, again light cloud, 13 miles an hour, west-southwesterly wind. And Christmas Day itself, we can expect a high of 9 degrees Celsius, again a light cloud cover, 16 miles per hour wind, this time a southwesterly. I'm sorry, I have forgotten to translate those back into Fahrenheit. Must do my homework better. Anyway, all that remains for me to say is that I wish you all a very happy Christmas and a peaceful New Year, and I'll be back the week after next. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And here we have the answers to last week's quiz. Now, if you remember, Kevin promised us that this one would be a bit difficult, so let's hope you've Googled the correct answers. And Kevin asked us, what was the occupation of Dogberry in Much Ado About Nothing? And he was a constable. Who would use a chuck, a tool post, a lead screw, a tailstock in his work? And that would be a turner. What is a 42-string guitar called, other than Virtually Impossible? Well, apparently it's known as a Picasso guitar. Never heard of it, I've got to say, far too many strings. Question number 4. Which Lincolnshire non-league football team has Trinity after its name? And this is one that I did actually know, unusually, and it's Gainsborough Trinity. And number 5. Who played Alf Garnett's daughter in Till Death Us Do Part? And that was, of course, the wonderful Eunice Stubbs. And the connection is, they're all artists and painters. Not as difficult as you made out, Kevin, really. Now with me now is Duncan Lillywhite, and Duncan is playing Professor Doug Holes. And now if you had to guess what kind of production that would be in, what would you say? Well, it would have to be a pantomime, wouldn't it, Professor?
Oh, no, it isn't.
Oh, yes, it is. Professor Doug Holes. And Duncan's a member of Mill Hamlet Players, and if you know or if you don't know, there are a fairly local group, and they're going to be putting on a pantomime at Bracklesham Barn, and it's called Take the Mummy and Run. And Duncan's going to tell us a bit more about it. Good morning, Duncan.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to get, especially to get people that take part in pantomime. Oh, no further comments then, Tracy?
No more heckling from the
No
back.
more heckling from there. Right, well, pantomime at Bracklesham Barn. First time pantomime been in the area for a little while, probably.
First time directly in the Wittering Bracklesham area, probably ever, I think. Yes,
really?
Which is a bit of a breakthrough. Obviously, there's the Wittering players that do, I was going to say more serious stuff, but they do a lot of comedy plays and they do it really, really well. But as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been a pantomime, at least for the last 3 or 4 years. And prior to that, we, Mill Hamlet Players, as a group, used to perform at Siddlesham Football Club. So a lot of your listeners hopefully will have been or will have seen us and hopefully are used to what we come up with.
Yeah, well, I reside in Selsey, so I watched the pantomime over there for a number of years because we always have one.
Yeah.
In Selsey, we always have a pantomime. It is a pantomime.
Yeah, you said it, not me.
Well, I can see the look on your face. It always goes down well at Christmas, and I find the local productions are usually quite hilarious. Now, this one, I believe, has been specially written. I've not come across it before at the Theatre Royal or anywhere else, Take the Mummy and Run.
No, you won't have come across it at all anywhere, mainly because it's been specifically written by our director, star, and writer, Paul Hills, who some of you may be familiar with, a retired solicitor from the village, who's, I was going to say his lifelong project. It isn't, because he's done all sorts of things. But he'd always promised to actually write a pantomime from script, and this is what he's come up with. Take the Mummy and Run. And loosely it's based on Egypt in the sort of turn of the century. So if you think of Tutankhamun and any chaos that you could write around that, he's written it all. So, and very funny it is. So it's a sort of comedy play with panto thrown in. And I'm sure any listeners who come along will actually thoroughly enjoy themselves. And hopefully
I'm
be
sure
laughing.
they will. Now, Mill Hamlet Players, not one I've heard of, and I've been involved in local Amdram groups around the area.
Well, Mill Hamlet Players are sort of... a long history, about 30 years or so of producing plays. We used to do plays and pantos, sort of a couple each year, panto at Christmas and then a play during the year. And people sort of move in and out and whatever. And I think the last one was 3, maybe 4 years ago, was the last panto that was done at Siddlesham. And for various reasons, the facilities there, unfortunately, and people moving away and struggling to get people, would you believe, to do local amateur dramatics.
I do believe, because I know one in Selsey that's struggling a bit at the moment as well.
Which is a real shame. So it's quite nice. And Paul's been instrumental in that, because what's happened here, the cast this year, is pretty much a lot of reprobates that have done this in the past, and he's sort of dragged them all out of semi-retirement and made us all sort of join in and resurrect Mill Hamlet Players, which is fantastic.
I think the problem is at the moment is not the curse of Tutankhamun, but actually the curse of the choir, because choirs are springing up all over the place.
Yeah.
There's one in Selsey that started with nothing, not too long ago, and now has got about 60 people turn up every week. Yeah, so and people are going for that rather than going to take part.
Interesting.
In
Well, there's plenty of song and dance in this performance as well.
Yes,
so that doesn't. We don't preclude a bit of singing or a bit of dancing or whatever.
Now, how long's it on for?
It's on Thursday, the 12th of January, is first night. Friday and Saturday evenings at 7:30, and then a matinee on Sunday afternoon. I think 3 o'clock, but I may stand to be corrected on that one. I'm not sure.
Jolly good, but they can get information for that from Bracklesham Barn.
From Bracklesham Barn, tickets available from BizCard and from the Wittering Medical Centre.
Ah, you see, you can get your tickets. And the price of the tickets?
Price of tickets, adults £7.50, children £4, or you can get a family ticket, 2 adults, 2 children, for £20. And hopefully you'll have a really good night out. And just taking on your point about local amateur dramatics, it's very local in the sense that you'll see one of our doctors from the medical centre performing, and Mr. Hills himself, of course, and myself. So lots of local people with local businesses. Always good to poke fun at and heckle at from the back.
Yes, you must. When you go to these pantomimes, and people do, they go there, sit there very quietly. Yeah. And it's not the point of a pantomime. The point of a pantomime is to go there and heckle.
You're absolutely right, Keith. That's exactly what we want, and as much audience participation as we can possibly get.
It's not old hat to say, oh, no, it isn't, or oh, yes, it is, or
not.
Look out, he's behind you.
Oh, absolutely
It's exactly what pantomime needs.
And this one specifically has, without giving too much away, has a bit more audience participation than that, because I don't want to give too much of the script away, but one of the cast members loses their voice and relies on the audience to actually sort of help them out a bit. So we're reliant on the audience, as we always are. That doesn't mean to say that if you sit in the front row, you won't be a bit more involved than you might want to be. But that's traditional pantomime as well.
Absolutely. So, well, if you want to take your kids along, or if you don't want to take your kids along and want to go on your own,
oh, absolutely, yeah,
get along to Bracklesham Barn and enjoy the pantomime, because they really are good fun, and it's an opportunity that you won't have had recently in Bracklesham and the Witterings.
Indeed.
So, but youngsters really love it. They really get involved.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a show for all the family. There's a bit of adult humour in there, which hopefully will get lost on the children, but there's enough traditional panto that I'm sure the children will have a whale of a time as well.
Well, I hope it goes absolutely wonderfully well for you.
I'm sure it will. Thank you, Keith, very much indeed.
You look like the kind of guy that's going to have a whale of a time doing it.
Well, rehearsals we're having a ball, so yeah, hopefully if we have as much fun on the nights, I'm sure we're going to have great fun, and hopefully the audience will as well.
I'm sure they will. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us, Duncan.
Not at all. Thanks, Keith, very much.
Right, my next guest today is Robin Hawkins, and Robin is the chair of the Patient Participation Group, and I hope you got that because I've only saying it once, for the Witterings area, which covers quite a big area, and I'm sure Robin will tell us exactly how big an area it takes. And we're going to be talking about communication with patients and vice versa. Good morning, Robin.
Well, good morning to you too. I feel a bit embarrassed about this phrase, Patient Participation Group. It was wished on the National Health Service, I think, by our government some 10 years ago, but in simple terms, it simply means a way of patients being able to communicate with doctors, not necessarily about medical matters, and doctors being able to answer those questions. It's done through our volunteer group, and we find that patients will email us and raise questions, and it's been quite an interesting period during which sometimes patients can bring up a question which they cannot get an answer to, and we can be helpful in getting them an answer.
Now, does this involve dealing with practice managers? Are you basically an intermediary between the patients and the practice managers?
Yes, we have our meetings every few weeks. The practice manager is the key. But it's very nice when a doctor comes along to join us at the meetings, because then we can get answers, directly from somebody who is involved on a day-to-day basis, and that's how it works.
And of course, it makes it look like the doctors are actually interested in what's going on in the PPG, and I shall shorten it to PPG now. We all know what it means. Do many patients get involved?
Well. Not the PPG is 6 or 8 people, enthusiastic volunteers. Patients do get involved, and sometimes they'll bring up an issue. There's a wonderful example of this when a lady wrote to us because her husband was a diabetic and he had a need to be checked with a diabetic retinopathy camera. I don't know, are you familiar with this?
Oh, I'm diabetic myself, so I understand fully.
Well, I was just thinking that you would know about that, yes. And the problem was that the camera, he had to travel either to Chelsea or to St. Richard's, and that was not easy for them. And she was suggesting, why couldn't we have a camera here at the medical centre? Well, they cost money. The NHS does not have surplus money. But thanks to her initiative and then us talking to the staff at the medical centre, money was found from the excellent Woodger Trust, which again you probably know about, I guess.
Well,
you do you?
Well, I don't know too much about it, but I do.
No, but they are a wonderful source sometimes of money, and they very kindly put up the necessary amount of money, and then the practice worked with the National Health Service in Worthing to get this thing up and running. And so the lady who had brought up the issue in the first place, and she got a petition together as well. She got her camera.
Well, for those of you that don't actually understand what a retinopathy camera is, it photographs the back of the eye and it notes any changes that there might be. So it's a pre-warning system that you might have problems with eyesight if you're diabetic. That's a common thing with diabetes, is that you can end up going blind. And I can just hear people now saying, well, surely it's no problem to drive over to St Richard's or drive over to Selsey or jump on a bus and go to St Richard's. When you have the retinopathy camera taking pictures of your eye, they put drops in your eyes that dilate your pupils. And
yes.
you are not allowed to drive. You have to sign a disclaimer to say that you haven't driven there, you won't be driving home. So all of a sudden, it's not just a matter of having a photograph of your eye taken. It's far more involved than that. So the need for an area like this to have a camera, I can fully understand.
Yes, and I'd say it is working, and it is a useful facility. But it's an example of communication, and in this instance, it worked.
Now, communication. You mentioned communication there. How do you communicate with people? Because there's probably, I don't know, 10,000 or thereabouts people to be communicated with.
You are absolutely right, and it's one of the challenges, and actually the reason why I'm being grilled by you, because we have this challenge of getting information out from the surgery to the 10,000 patients. We can't afford advertising. I don't think we really need to do that, but we have to find a way of getting messages to people. And we, from our experience, have discovered that email is really an efficient way of doing that. Now, there's a problem. Not everybody has email. In this area, probably with a somewhat higher proportion of older people, email is less likely to be available. But it does work. And we need to get the email addresses of as many of the 10,000 patients as possible. Now, that sounds like a tall order. When I started on this, I think we had 100 email addresses, and we are anxious to increase the number. In 3 years, I think we've got up to 1,250, which is progress. And if you reckon that each email address belongs to a household, then it perhaps covers 2,500 people. 2,500 people, again, doesn't sound like a high proportion of 10,000, but actually it is, because a lot of people are not unwell. They don't have no need for the services of the medical centre. So we're making progress. But frankly, until we have, shall we say, 2,500 email addresses which we have permission to write to, I feel we're not doing our job properly. So that's why I was very glad to be invited on to talk about this.
So now, if people want to give you their email address and permission to use it, which they obviously need to do.
Yeah, that's the key, really. We cannot take people's email addresses off them regardless. We must have their permission. Data protection and so on is very important to the National Health Service, and we have to abide by the rules. So we must have permission. What I'm saying is, if you are a patient, if you would like to get this information, then please give us permission to use your email address, and I can tell you how to do that.
Yes, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, there are two ways. One is go to your friendly medical centre, and there are forms, email permission forms, which you sign and pass back to the receptionist or send in, whichever you prefer. That's one way of doing it. So on your next visit, please remember to pick one of the forms up. The other way is for those people happy using computers. It's straightforward. You simply write to us at our email address and ask us to add you to our email address list. Our email address is contact@witppg.co.uk. And I think we should spell that out, don't you?
I think so. That's contact@witppg.co.uk, which is contact@witppg.co.uk. And you need to ask to be added to the mailing list.
And in return, you'll get an email message back. We don't promise instant replies, but they'll come within a day or two. And you may even be sent a copy of the last newsletter. And we are grateful to you if you will do that, please.
And so next time you're sitting at home saying, I don't know what's going on down that doctor's surgery, you've only got yourself to blame, because you can find out what's going on there if you send your email address in and give permission to use it. And I had a little chuckle during the conversation there, Robin, because I find that you did it, and I find I do it all the time now, is to refer to the age of people using computers. Now, I'm 67, and I would guess you're a bit older than that. And,
No.
And we use them. And we use them all the time. And we're trying to get other people to use them. So it always amuses me. Well, thanks for coming in and having a chat to us, Robin, and just giving us a brief outline of, what you'd like to do, and you'd like to get people to get involved and people to get in contact. And hopefully we can assist with that.
Good. And thank you very much for inviting me in.
Thank you very much. Bye for now. And we go across finally now to Kevin for our Christmas bumper quiz. And if they're anything like the ones we've had recently, they're going to be quite difficult. Morning, Kevin.
Right, hi, it's Kevin the Quiz here with your weekly dose of quiz questions. This week I've got a bonus for you because it is seasonal time. I've got a bumper quiz. You might need to use your internet for some of these. Right, question number 1, pop music. Which group's Knights in White Satin, a massive hit, but only ever reached number 19 in the charts in 1968? Which group had a hit with Knights in White Satin? Question number 2, which film did the band McFly take their name from? A big hit in 1985, the film. Question number 3, Abyssinian, Norwegian Forest and Manx are all breeds of what? Question number 4, who is the only son of a Formula 1 world champion to win the Formula 1 World Championship? Only ever been one. Question number 5. Which comedian's DVDs include Live at the Bolton Albert Halls and Live at the Top of the Tower? Which northern comedian? Question number 6. Which company, now most famous for shaving products, only stopped making swords in 2005? Question number 7. Katie Holmes was the only member to appear in all 128 episodes of which cult TV show? You might need to look that one up, Katie Holmes. And question number 8, but there's 2 answers. Which 2 boxers named Sugar Ray have won boxing world titles? And both answers are relevant to the connection. So what is the connection? Good luck with that.
Well, thanks for that, Kevin. I look forward to getting the answers in the new year. And may I just take this opportunity to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year. And I hope you enjoy your holiday. And we go across now to Pastor Andy Stevens. Hello, Andy.
Good morning. I want today to talk about identity. There seems to be a focus on identity these days, from national identity to gender identity, along with spiritual identity. To start with, let's look at Jesus. The Bible clearly sets out the identity of Jesus, and yet some get offended by that and some get joyful. Many people see Jesus as a good person, and many see him as a prophet. The challenge is that a good person or a prophet would not tell lies. If you read the Bible, it says in several places, in one form or another, he, Jesus, stated that he was the Son of God, the Messiah, the Christ. Let's look at some. In John 13, verse 19, it says, I tell you this now before it occurs. This is Jesus speaking. So that when it does take place, you may be persuaded and believe that I am he. What I say I am, the Christ, the Anointed One, the Messiah. I assure you most solemnly, I tell you, he who receives and welcomes and takes into his heart any messenger of mine receives me in just that way. And he who receives and welcomes and takes me into his heart receives him who sent me in the same way. And then from Matthew 16, from verse 13, it says, Now when Jesus went into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, Who do people say that the Son of Man is? And they answered, Some say, John the Baptist. Others say, Elijah. And others, Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He said to them, But who do you yourselves say that I am? Simon Peter replied, You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus answered him, Blessed, happy, fortunate, and to be envied are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Now is the time of year where people in many parts of the world celebrate Christmas or the birth of Christ. What is so special about Jesus that the world chose an annual celebration? Don't forget, there is another greater statement about the reality of the existence of Jesus Christ. He is the only person in history to have changed the calendar. Yes, we forget we are in 2016 AD, and anything older than 2016 years has the reference BC, before Christ. Quite a history for just a good man or prophet. There have been many good men and many prophets. None changed the world like Jesus. He knew his identity, and so does the world. He truly was the Son of God. He actually is still the Son of God, sitting at the right hand of the Father in heaven. My identity is in Christ. What is your identity? Who are you? Why are you here? Where are you going?
Well, thanks for those words of wisdom, Andy. And I'm sure we'll see you again in the not too distant future. And leading up to Christmas, I wish you all well for the festive season.
And to yourselves.
And to everybody else listening, on behalf of the team here at Manhood Internet Radio, we'd once again like to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a healthy, prosperous New Year. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.